Greg and Richard right here on Talking Red. Hello and welcome to Talking Reds, a Nottingham Forest podcast, hosted by myself, Greg Oram, and my fellow Forest fanatic from across the Atlantic, Mr. Richard Spray. Today we're back with an episode of our special series where we meet a fellow Forest fan and put them in the hot seat for an hour's chat about our favourite club, Nottingham Forest. As usual, we'll spend a little bit of time getting to know our guests, and later on they'll reveal their own personal all-time Forest 11, as well as taking part in regular features such as the lightning round and Name That Grandmother. So with Forest gearing up for the trip to Anfield and the battle to stay in the Premier League now the club's focus, you can be sure that those topics and many more are on the menu. So please do sit back and enjoy the one with Mark Turner.
I will stop shouting, I will stop wagging my finger, I will stop inciting people, and then let's all listen, because I just might have a contribution to make.
Robertson, the first time we've seen them attack them, and there's Francis! Well, that's what I wanted to see Robertson do!
Oh, a tremendous goal by the Forest captain, Stuart Pearce.
We've got a little fat guy that will turn him inside out.
John Robertson.
Yeah, very talented, highly skilled, unbelievable outside left.
Mark Turner, welcome to Talking Reds. How are you, sir?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, gents. I'm very well and excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure. Thank you for being here. We love doing the One With series. It gives us a chance to meet a Forest fan from here in the UK or from overseas, and you're one of our USA-based Forest fans who we're going to find a bit more about as we go through. We start with every One With the question about your Forest story, how and why you became a Forest fan. So that's where we'll start. You tell us.
Well, it was probably while I was in the womb. My first recollection. Yeah, my story is kind of an interesting one. It's fairly straightforward, but also a little obscure in as much as you can hear from the accent, I'm not from Nottingham, that's for sure. But I do adore the city. But in terms of the football team, as a nipper, all of my mates. So I came up in the golden era of Panini sticker collecting, right? Every kid at school had a big wedge of Panini stickers with an elastic band wrapped around them. And I remember swapsies, during recess, as they would call it here in America, was the big thing. And all of my mates were rabid for Man United and Liverpool stickers, despite the fact we all lived in Oxford and none of us had any affiliation to Man United or Liverpool. Those were the teams that all of my mates wanted to support. And I just, even from a young'un, I just wanted to do something different. I was just one of those kids that kind of wanted to be an outlier, which in adulthood has served me pretty well, but not always. But I was looking around for a team, and I will never forget being sat in front of the TV one Saturday, cross-legged, and Brian Clough appearing post-match and being a little snarky with an interviewer and just having so much charisma and charm and just a kind of little ferocious edge about him. It resonated with me so much. I'm like, who is this man? And so it's kind of a combination of things, really. It was the badge, it was the colours, and it was Cloughie. And so the following Monday, I went to school and proudly announced myself, this lad from Abingdon, Oxfordshire, as a Nottingham Forest fan. Later that season, Forest raised their first European Cup, and the rest is history.
Perfect timing.
Oh, man, that's incredible. I don't think we've got a few stories like that, but that's definitely interesting. I appreciate that, Mark. Yeah, and I'm sure it's even got more interesting now that you've shifted gears and you're over in the U.S., because I know growing up, here in the States, it was a bit challenging at times without getting letters from my granddad telling me how Forest were doing pre-internet era, right? Where you couldn't even have the teletext thing. Like they didn't even have that over in the States at the time. But so what's it been like for you? Just, in terms of living over in the United States, how long have you been in the U.S.? Because I think you live in Colorado, right?
I
If I
do.
remember correct. Yeah. So how long have you been over in the US? I mean, some may know this because I know you're on Garibaldi Red as well, but how long has that been? And what's it been like trying to kind of like remain passionate and committed to Forest and the badge overseas?
Yeah, it's been well, it has been challenging, but I also feel fortunate. So after those formative years in Oxford, coming up watching Forest on TV, didn't get to the City Ground when I was young. My parents had no interest whatsoever in bringing me up to Nottingham. In fact, Oxford United, who will come into the story later, were my hometown team. And I remember my mum taking me to the club shop just down the street from the old manor ground and get me kitted out from head to toe in Oxford blue and yellow, which was uh, not a nice sensation. But she was paying, and it was a football kit. But then I actually moved to
Milk
Nottingham.
Cup winners, I think, in about 1985 or something like that.
86. Good job, my
86.
friend. Yep, 86. But then I moved up to Nottingham when I moved out. I started working and whatnot, and those were the best years. Right, I was a season ticket holder, able to get there regularly to the City Ground, and then, as you mentioned, Richard, I moved to England, to the US. But that wasn't until 2000, and the first couple of years here in the States were definitely challenging in terms of trying to stay on top of things. But I sort of got here right at the beginning of the golden era. I mean, the Premier League was obviously already well underway at the time. Obviously, Forest's involvement in it at that point was fleeting. But nevertheless, there seemed to be a real appetite here for European football, and in particular, football from the UK. And so getting access to things on TV was pretty straightforward. In fact, I would joke with my mates back home who were paying a lot, right, for subscriptions with Sky and wherever else they were paying to watch football. They were paying a lot more than I was to watch English football teams play in the Premier League. Now, that didn't help me much as a Forest fan, obviously, because we were in the doldrums for about a quarter of a century. So that was definitely challenging. So like you all, well, maybe not you, Greg, but certainly you, Richard, I do remember having to pay for Forest TV through the website, and that was just an atrocious experience. So unreliable, and definitely less than, but here we are now, Forest back in the Premier League, and very, very straightforward.
So you're able to watch pretty much every game, I should imagine, because everything Premier League wise is beamed around the world and every game is available. Yep. And so how challenging is it to kind of get up to make sure you catch a game? I mean, do you have any like traditions where you are? Do you watch it alone? Have you managed to kind of connect with other Forest fans? Do you get together sometimes? How is it?
Yeah, it's a good question. So you would think the only game I'd really be that worried about getting up in the middle of the night for, Greg, would be Nottingham Forest. But I'm one of those sickos who has a fantasy football team. So all of those that are watching this or listening to this and are similarly afflicted, I feel for you. So, of course, what that means is, you have to get up at 4:00 in the morning to watch Wolves play Brighton because you have a player from each team in your fantasy team or something. Not this year. Nobody has any players from Wolves in a fantasy team this year. But you get my point nevertheless. And so, but you know what? It's actually pretty cool, Greg. It's good. It's actually really fun to be able to get up at sort of, let's say 5:00 in the morning, put the coffee on, put the TV on. And even if it's not a game you're that much into, sort of have it playing in the background. And then you hear a commentator get excited. You sort of stick your head around the door, right? See what's going on. And then the games roll just one after another. And so sort of from 5 in the morning until sort of, 2 in the afternoon or whatever, when the last one finishes, it's just wall to wall football. And at some point in that, you get the highlight of the day, which is Forest playing. But no, it's actually pretty straightforward. I enjoy it. In terms of connecting with other people, not so much. So I live in, as Richard mentioned, I live in Colorado now, in Colorado Springs specifically. And this is not exactly your hotbed of football down here. So connecting with other Forest fans has been challenging. We do have a fantastic British pub here, though, that does draw football fans to it. It closed down for a bit and it just reopened in a new location. So I am hopeful to be able to make connections with a few Forest fans at some point here, in the coming weeks and months. But then I moved to Dallas and I also moved to Austin. And again, even those obviously more metropolitan locations, it was still challenging making connections with Forest fans. sort of do here and there. But I'll tell you one thing that you do experience as a Forest fan when you're out wearing your shirt, and maybe, Richard, maybe you've had this too. Everybody loves Forest. It's one of those shirts, it doesn't split the group, right? It's everybody. It's an affection for Forest. Everyone remembers a particular Forest player, or, you know, even Brian Clough, right? They'll talk about Cloughie if they're kind of an older persuasion. So wherever you go, you have friends, which is nice. But no, my routine in the morning, Greg, is basically to get up, put Forest on, get on the WhatsApp group with Richard and the crew, and get on text with my mate Trevor, who became legendary through Garibaldi Reds. If you ever listened to those episodes, I used to throw Trev's name in there all the time. There's a story about that too, but I'm going to stop talking for a second and get some more coffee.
Yes, get the synapses going. Although you're much more alert, I think, than I am at this point, so that's good. It is such a cool experience being in that group, as you know, and Dave talked about this on our last episode. Dave Thompson, like, it's just firing all day long. I mean, there's just people throwing stuff out there all day long, so the passion is clearly evident in that group. So, how do you think the club is doing, though? You know, now they've added international memberships, like other ways that they've done to kind of embrace the idea of being more of a world brand. From your perspective, how do you think they've done doing that and connecting with fans overseas?
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, from a selfish perspective, I sort of think it's long overdue, right? This should have happened ages ago. But then I also understand that we were in the Championship, and, you know, there were clubs in the Championship who were doing more in regards to their brand, who were trying to get things out, and Forest, again, seem to be dragging their feet a little bit in that regard. But once you get into the Premier League, of course, it's a whole different ballgame. And so I'm delighted to see them leaning into that more now. Coming back to my earlier comment about wherever you go, if you've got a Forest shirt on, you have friends. I went to Kansas City a couple of months ago for the fan zone thing. Is it NBC? NBC, right? I think host. Again, same experience. I'm walking around with my Forest shirt, and obviously got to meet some of the guys from the group there as well at that event. So it's important, I think, that the club lean into supporting fans from across the globe and encouraging folks to come to the City Ground, to come to Mecca. I know some fans get a little bit churlish about that. Less so the Forest fans. I think it's more sort of the Liverpool and the Chelsea fans, right? They're always complaining about the tourists showing up and taking the tickets and bumping up prices so the locals can't afford to go. But I don't think we had that challenge quite to the same degree in Nottingham. So I like seeing the club lean into that. And I think it's important that we get to make our pilgrimage periodically back to the City Ground. And it's great to see stories of that, isn't it, on the WhatsApp group? And again, I mentioned this the other day. I commented that, you know, somebody gets on there and they say, hey, I want to make it back at Christmas, or I want to make it to I want to make it to the Leeds game, or whatever it may be. And everybody wades in with like, oh yeah, this is the best way to do that. And this is how you do it. And here's where you sign up. And let me know if you need a ticket because I have a spare. And it's just, it feels fantastic to be part of a group like that, where everyone's supporting one another and helping facilitate those important moments. You know, there's nothing like it. I mean, Greg over there is like, oh, City Ground, old hat, mate. I'm in there every other day.
Not quite. I'm as you can hear, I'm not from Nottingham either, as I've spoken about on the pod many times. I live in North London near Tottenham, so my trips to the City Ground are less than I would like as well. But yeah, obviously I'm able to go more than you guys. But we've talked about how Richard had the difficulty of staying in touch with Forest growing up in the USA.
Yeah.
It touched on letters from Grandad being really important, and that is completely an alien world to what we now experience in 2025 with the internet, with the power of, you're in Colorado, I'm in London, and Richard's in Oklahoma, and we're all talking, facing each other on the channel right now, as well as the WhatsApp groups that you're talking about, where people are in different locations and messaging each other, and it's instantaneous. That connection is just so instantaneous. So we feel closer together than we've ever felt before. And so therefore the club feels more in reach than it's ever felt before. I would imagine for yourselves, for people like our friend Scott in Australia and all the guys down there and wherever it may be.
Yeah.
So to see the club doing their part with you international fans, and when Richard came in October, was quite easy, wasn't it, for us to get tickets, to go, then reserving and acknowledging that, look, we've got a fan base. And if people are making the effort to get on a plane and come back, then we want to make sure that we make it as easy as possible. And there have been a couple of snarky fans on social media, I would say, that still get a bit irked. And I don't like that, if I'm honest with you. I think, even if it's a fan that found Forest in America, and we know a couple of them already, more than a couple, that found Forest growing up in America, picked a football team, and are just as passionate about Forest as you or I. And they say, you know what, I need to go to a game. So to put that effort in, to get on a plane and come to the UK, maybe for the first time, and go to a game, I think it's extraordinary. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Absolutely. And it should be embraced. So, for expats like yourselves and so on, to be able to come back and still come to the City Ground and still be part of it is amazing. And we have had so many highs and lows over the years as Forest fans, Mark. And I'm sure you probably can think straight away about a few. But what's been the most emotional moment that you've experienced as a supporter, maybe good or bad?
Golly, you're right. There are just a ton of them. It's interesting when you talk about snarky fans, just circling back to that for a second. I'm quite sure I would draw their ire more than most. I'm not from Nottingham. I don't live in Nottingham. But, my fandom goes back 45 years. My fandom extends longer than most of those particular fans have been alive, I'm quite sure.
Right.
So, I think folks do need to be more tolerant.
Because we're from a similar kind of era.
Yeah, and also supporting Forest if you're not from Nottingham is not comfortable. It's not right. We're not bandwagon jumpers here. I dragged my poor mate Trevor into Forest when I lived in Nottingham. I'm like, mate, come up to the City Ground with me. He was a big football fan, but had never hitched his wagon to a team. This poor, can I use the B word? This poor bastard started supporting Forest when they were absolutely in the doldrums. He had not experienced anything like joy or the fun of supporting a football team. Silverware was a remote dream to that poor guy. So I'm going to circle back to your question and say, I have lots of emotional moments, but the interesting thing is so many of them I've experienced as part of a large group or kind of independently, like sat in my bed here in America, watching them on the iPad. The one I'm going to select, therefore, is the one that is most personal to me, because it does involve Trev. Again, I felt so guilty for so many years, dragging one of my best mates into supporting Forest, really to make my life easier, right? Oh, great! I have a Robin to my Batman. I can bring him along on the journey. I can complain to somebody who's going to understand, and he really threw himself into that. So, when Forest made it to Wembley, right, for the playoff final, and a chance to get back to the promised land, and I was able to get me a ticket. I had a connection at the club. I said, it's 2 tickets or none. Like I won't go. Like I will deny myself that opportunity, which of course I wanted to go desperately if Trev can't be there too. And I was able to get us 2 tickets. And so he and I were at Wembley together. So bloody hell, it's got me more emotional than I expected.
You're making me emotional because I was there as well, and you don't. Yeah, you're saying it. You know, I can see it on your face.
Yeah,
it's about that connection, isn't it? To not just the club, but to each other as fans.
Yeah. It's weird. Well, so he lives in Brighton, so went down to his house, all excited the night before. You know, got a curry and was like chatting about it, and couldn't wait to get down to the City Ground. Following morning, jumping on the train. We got our gear on. We had those stupid Wembley t-shirts that the club produced. I had the white one. He had the red one. And we're all excited to get down there. And then, of course, you have the day. And I don't think he'd been to Wembley before. The new Wembley, at least. Some fans going to be sat there going, new Wembley? There was more than one Wembley. Yes, there was. I was at the old Wembley to see Gaza score that goal against Scotland. Amazing. But anyway, back to Forest. So, yeah, when that final whistle went, just the explosion, right, of joy and emotion and passion and screaming and crying and singing. Yeah. And to be able to share that with Trev and just hug him and be like, you've earned this, mate. You've earned this.
Fantastic.
That's cool.
Absolutely fantastic. That's so good to hear. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, we ask everybody who comes on to Talking Reds to give us their all-time personal Forest 11.
Yep.
There are no wrong answers because every player that ever pulled on the shirt deserves our undying everything.
No, there are wrong answers. There are wrong answers. What was Van Hooijdonk doing in Dave's team?
Well, there is that. But you've gone for this team. I'll read it out, then we can have a chat about one or two.
Yeah.
So, Peter Shilton in goal. Back four with Pearce at left back and Viv Anderson at right back. Kenny Burns and Des Walker in defence. John Robinson on the left and John McGovern and Neil Webb in the middle. On the right, you've gone for Trevor Francis. And up top, Collymore and Birtles. I mean, I could have picked that team because it speaks to me. Like I said, we're from the same year group almost at school, it would feel like, and kind of grew up at the same time. So there's some amazing players in there. But John McGovern, two-time European winning captain, who was the guy that went to the Clough turn to whenever he needed to bring in his man, never seems to make it into anybody's favourite team, always kind of flies under the radar. Why has he made it into your team, Mark?
Well, there's a few players I have really good stories about that I'd love to share, but certainly happy to start with McGovern. And the first thing I'll say is, now, young man, don't get too confused with the formation. So we got a 4-4-2 here, but it's movable, right? So I wanted Francis up. I wanted three up top. But I've been a football coach myself for a long time, and I thought, you know what? I don't think a midfield three of Robertson, McGovern, and Webb can hold a team back because Robertson's going to drift out. Well, it's too much, right? You wanted just 11 names from me. You didn't want all the tactics. So we set this up as a 4-4-2. Francis on his unfavoured right-hand side. Back to McGovern. It's exactly what you said, Greg. It's how can the greatest football manager who ever lived continue to lean on this man and us as fans not respect that, right? Was he the greatest player Forest ever had? No. Was he technically the best? No. Was he the quickest? Was he the most physical? No, right? It's not about that. It's about the package. And it's about the leadership. Like, there are some big names on this team sheet. McGovern would get the armband from me every day of the week and twice on Sundays, despite the fact I adore Psycho, right? I think you can't argue with Clough. You just can't. And also, I think, you know, John McGovern has just continued to etch his name on my heart with his continued association with our club. The fact he's such a staunch ambassador and makes himself so visible to the players and to the public. I just adore him. And so, you know, don't get me wrong, Roy Keane absolutely could have been in this team, but Roy Keane was at Forest for 2 seasons. John McGovern is a lifer. So, yeah.
Can't argue with that. And actually seeing John McGovern at the club still in many different guises over the years, it's almost felt like he belongs there for certain. But even when we went away on the away trip to play Porto, him on the plane and being kind of part of the travelling party, it kind of like joined the past up with the present a little bit. And I think we need to embrace that. Too many times you hear about the legends kind of not being acknowledged at clubs and so on. And I think certainly Steve Cooper played a big part in them coming back into the fold when he was the manager and so forth. I think Mr. Marinakis has done a good job at that as well. And with the upcoming Malmo game, I'm really looking forward. You know, they're gonna make a night of that at the City Ground when the Miracle Men and the Malmo team have been invited as well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that turns out. And hopefully, you know, obviously we want to win the game, but you know, the occasion is going to be quite special. Let's pick out another player. I mean, Shilton is my all-time favourite goalkeeper because he was my first hero as well. So I can completely get why you've gone with Peter Shilton. But we've had some great goalkeepers. But you did pump for the England legend, didn't you?
Yeah. It was either him or Dave Besson.
Or Dave Besson. I didn't expect you to say that.
Quick story about that. So Dave Besson, any Forest fans that were there, you know, rocking about the time he was, will remember that he actually was a great servant to the club.
Yeah.
He didn't play badly at all. And I remember Forest, when I was living in Oxford, coming to the Manor Ground for a cup game And of course, I got myself a ticket in with the Forest fans. And I don't know what year it was. I don't know what cup it was. Besant had an absolute blinder. And I was among the, whatever it was, 2,000 Forest fans in the Manogram that night singing, England's number one. England's number one. It was fantastic. But, Shilton's in there because there are 3 players in this 11 who they must appear in every single 11 that you guys have when you have this segment. How Shilton, Pearce, and Robertson can't appear in every best of Forest 11 is beyond me. I mean, they surely must.
Well, I think different people from different eras will have their own favourites.
Yeah.
We've always said it's not about maybe picking the best, it's maybe the ones that have meant the most to you. So there's always that variety. But I think if you're going to go down, look, let's pick the all-time best 11, then yeah, you're right. They need to feature.
I have a similar thing with Shilton though. I mean, again, he was a big Cloughie pick. Cloughie obviously gave him great kudos for the number of points he was worth every season. I actually have a soft spot as well for Chris Wood, who was his understudy for a while, if you remember. Yeah. Really good goalkeeper as well. And I think he had the misfortune of being behind Peter Shilton, both for Forest and England. And I love Mark Crossley as well. I love Big Norm. He's one of the few Forest players that came on my podcast and I interviewed. A quick story about him. He was brilliant. So, during the interview, I had to ask him, about his nicknames, and Cloughie called him, right? Big Norm, chief among them, but maybe.
Where do you think you're going, shithouse?
Exactly. And I mentioned to him that my nickname was Taz. I picked up in my early 20s just because of my kind of Roy Keane-esque attitude to playing. I would run around the field like a crazy man, covering every blade of grass 3 times, and I was very physical and all of that. And anyway, we carry on with the interview. It goes for about an hour. We get to the end. I said, thanks, Big Norm. Really appreciate it. And he goes, no worries, Taz. I'm like, oh my God, I just had a Forest legend call me by my nickname. That is mental. He is such a nice bloke. So was actually in strong contention for this team. But again, like you, Greg, it was Shilton from way back when.
Fantastic. An amazing team. Turner's Reds, Shilton, Pearce, Burns, Walker, Anderson, Robertson, McGovern, Webb, Francis, Collymore, and Birtles. If we could have them playing in the Premier League right now.
Very quickly.
We've got time for one more.
Okay, just one more quick story. I've got to tell the Birtles story.
Go on.
So again, I mentioned I used to go to the Manor Ground. We're a strange little clique because my uncle was there. He was a season ticket holder, despite the fact he was a Sunderland fan. My granddad always used to go with us. My granddad was an Arsenal fan, and there I am, a Forest fan. So a motley crew. Anyway, at the Manor Ground, you used to be able to stand around the back of the dressing rooms. The coaches would pull up and they'd open the gates, and the players would come in. They'd hang a left, and they'd file past all of the fans into the dressing rooms. So the fans would all be there with their programs and pens and whatnot to get players to sign. And oh my God, I've got some amazing programs. Brian Robson's signature on, and just legends from the day, right? So whenever Forest showed up, I was always so excited to be there and try and catch some Forest signatures. Anyway, this one day, Forest coach was late, got caught in traffic or whatever. So they showed up, I'm not kidding you, it was probably about 15 minutes before the kickoff. So Clark clearly had the players under strict orders. We are getting straight into the dressing room, no signing anything, no messing around. I get to see this team once a year. These are my boys, and I'm desperate to interact with them and get something signed. And Clough frog marches them down this tiny little corridor straight into the dressing room. And here I am, like with my program on my pen, like, oh, get it, please. And nothing. Players are head down, straight in the locker. And again, if I was one of Cloughie's players, likewise, I would have been the same. Very end of the queue was Gary Birtles. And Gary Birtles saw the desperation in my eyes, stepped out of the line for a second and grabbed my pen. Here you go, lad. And then jumped back in line, straight into the locker room. So I know Gary Birtles isn't everyone's cup of tea, as a player maybe, but certainly as a pundit subsequently. I will forever have a soft spot in my heart for Gary Birtles and his kindness on that day.
Oh, man, that's cool.
Amazing. Absolutely fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. He is a great guy. And you know what? He scores some very important goals for us. Thank you very much for that. Okay, Turner's Reds. You're listening to the Talking Reds.
They don't know what the fuck they're doing.
We do try. Okay, I think maybe it's probably time we did this.
The lightning round!
So, Mark, I don't, it wouldn't be a podcast with an American on it, right? Someone who's grown up in the States without an homage to Friends, right? And that's especially my era, high school and college. So, appreciate you taking part in the lightning round. So, we'll kick it off with favorite Forest player of all time.
John Robertson. For obvious
Can't argue with
reasons.
that. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Little fat guy, right? All the skill.
And so obviously indelibly ingrained in the greatest moments in our club's history.
Oh
as
my
a
gosh.
goal scorer and as a goal provider. That moment where he provided the ball to Trevor Francis for our first European Cup win. I mean, that's the play reel. It's in my head all the time. God willing, I don't end up with Alzheimer's or any of those horrible situations that you end up with in an old age, because those are terrible. My grandmother went with that. But should my memory lapse, should I make it into my 90s and be on my deathbed and recalling the most important moments of my life, despite the fact I'm a father of two, but I had a pretty good life so far. Chief among them will be that goal. It'll still be playing. Yeah. So,
Oh man,
John Robertson.
brilliant, absolutely brilliant. All right, we may know the answer to this one. You did surface quite a nice little kit that you're wearing right now, a nice shirt. Favorite away or third kit? Is it that one, or is it another one?
I do like this one. I only really wore this one because I don't suppose many people wear it, and I think it's a great kit. I used to have the legendary green kit that never got worn.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Really?
I know. I don't know where it went, Greg. I'm gutted because in all my moves from here, to Austin and Texas and back, it's gone. And I'm gutted because they're like an eBay now. And
I'm trying to find one.
this thing brings good money. So it would be nice to have that financially to pass on to the kids. And I have a soft spot as well for the neon orange and yellow one. Because the promotion shirt, and I hated it at the time. I didn't buy one, and now I'm desperate for one. So if anyone's interested in signing theirs, men's size medium, hit me up. But my favorite is the European Cup 1979, 1980, yellow and blue. Super simple, crisp, beautiful classic.
Absolutely amazing. Perfect. All right. Well, what player on your all-time Forest starting 11 would you want on the current squad?
What do we need most? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Dave on this one. It needs to be Collymore. Could you put Des Walker in that defense and make it stronger 100%? Could you put John Robertson anywhere in the team and make it better? Of course you could. Is Shilton an upgrade from Sales? Undoubtedly. But we have really good players right now across most positions. Where we're struggling is for goals, right? It's up top. And as Dave mentioned, I know I keep harkening back to previous episodes, but this is what you do when you're podcasting, people. You're teasing the previous episodes, get people to go back. But it's got to be Collymore, not only because of his goal scoring record, but because he has magic in his boots. The bloke can pick up the ball from 45, 50 yards out, and all of a sudden he's creating or scoring something wondrous. So yeah, it's Collymore.
Yeah, no doubt. Can't argue with that. If you could change one event in Forest history, what would that be?
Oh my Lord. It's unfair because this wasn't a Dave question. I hadn't prepped for this one.
Rich has had a change around.
Yeah, to switch around. Sorry.
What would yours be, Greg?
What would mine? Oh no, I'm not in the hot seat. It's over to you, mate.
I'm trying to buy time here, Greg.
I've got too many. I've got too many to mention.
What would it be?
I was going to say maybe Stoke not winning 5-0.
Yeah, I mean, it would probably be the oh my gosh, it's such a horrific moment. I blotted it out of my brain.
Yeah, this is tough,
isn't
it?
Yeah, it's
another
tough.
91 FA Cup final.
Oh yeah, you know what? Actually, if it was me, I will jump in and say I would change Des Walker scoring the own goal. That's what I would. Yeah, that's a good one.
It's a great shout.
It is. I've got so many in my head right now fighting for that top spot on the podium. But it probably would be the FA Cup final. I mean, people are going to feel like you fed me now, but honestly, the Des Walker bit, Greg, for sure, right? None of us wanted to see that, but more so, that was the only piece of silverware Cloughie didn't get his hands on.
Yeah.
And that made me really sad. It made me sadder than Des Walker, looking doe-eyed at the final whistle, or any of us, and how bad we felt. I really felt for Cloughie. He deserved that. So yeah, let's go with that.
Brilliant. All right, well, last one. as we ask everybody, you probably heard this one with Dave as well. Forest win the Premier League, but are then relegated into the Championship for the next 25 years. Would you take it? You may say no because of Trevor. Poor guy's already dealt with enough.
Yeah, I wonder what Trevor would say in this situation. No, the answer is no, because there's so many other things that we could win that would bring us glory. And I think it's really important. Coming back to our conversation earlier of the club leaning in and out to its international constituents and raising the brand and the awareness and all of that. Like, you have to be in the Premier League to drive that. So, and football's about money anymore. It just is. So you've got to be at the top table in order to be able to get access to the revenue that can be club changing, right? It can be, it can change the dynamic for a whole generation or a couple of generations. And so I wouldn't want to give that up. It would be lovely to win the Premier League. It's one of the few things that Leicester have over us, but of course we won the old First Division. So it's not as though we haven't, won that trophy. There was life before the Premier League, folks. But yeah, I wouldn't take that deal.
I'm with you. I would be my answer as well. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. The lightning round has concluded. Thank you.
I majored in lightning rounds. All right.
Okay, we've got just about 10 minutes or so left. Let's switch our focus to the game on Saturday. What are your thoughts about travelling to Anfield? We got the win there last season that really seemed to spark us into the life and soul of the Premier League party, and we could do with something similar this weekend. What are your thoughts ahead of the big match, Mark?
My thoughts are that I'm nervous. Anyone that is on that WhatsApp group or has followed any of the stuff I've done on podcasts or any of my commentary work know that I'm very challenged to bottle my disdain for Liverpool. It comes up all the time. I can't help it. It's the era I came up as a Forest fan. I already talked about my mates with the Panini stickers, but also just like their attitude to being, the best and just very entitled. I have no time for Liverpool at all. So it always makes me nervous when we play them because generally speaking, we're on a hiding to nothing. Obviously, last season we bucked that trend and that was the highlight of the season for me. That was amazing. Are we capable of doing it again this time around? Actually, I think we probably are. Do I think we will? No. But I think we're catching them at just the right time. I think, Liverpool obviously are on a bit of a sticky wicket right now. I think Slot is struggling with what to do with the front line. Isak's clearly not fit. Ekitike appears to be pouting, Bellingham-esque. And not sort of really happy with his lot, which I don't blame the bloke. He shows up, he's on fire from day one, and he's looking over his shoulder constantly as they're waiting for the ink to dry on the contract from Newcastle. Isak shows up, and all of a sudden, Ekitike's on the bench. It doesn't seem to make any sense, quite frankly, but they've created that dynamic now, and it's unsettled players. I think not just the two I mentioned, and so they're in a bit of a weird spot. So I don't think it's beyond this Forest team under Dyche to show up and get something from the day. I think a draw is probably the most likely outcome, or maybe not. That's it is the most we could probably hope for. Maybe I think getting a victory at Anfield this time around is probably a little beyond us. But so yeah, I'm excited for it though. I am excited for it. All I'm hoping for is that we don't get battered. Like, I never want to play Liverpool and come away having lost sort of 4 or 5-0. I have friends who are Liverpool fans, and I just don't want to deal with that. So,
hey, I don't think there's anything you just said that we would disagree with. I think you've covered it perfectly. Yeah, I mean, it's been a tough season, obviously, just based off of the expectations coming into the season, from what happened last year. And so, yeah, I mean, I think we all expected a bit of a step back, but probably not this much. But as far as like the season goes, who's probably been the most impressive to you as far as, player wise on the club? Because I mean, there's certainly Anderson. There's plenty of potential options, but from your perspective, who it is?
No, there's only one answer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Anderson. It's Anderson all day long. He's been an absolute revelation. When he joined Forest, I remember talking with Max Hayes about him on the now defunct Garibaldi Red podcast, and I likened Anderson to a puppy. I said he's overeager, like he's trying to do a Taz. He's trying to cover every blade of grass 3 times and just needs to settle down and calm down on the ball a little bit. And I love his enthusiasm and I love his energy, but I'm not sure what he is yet. And this was maybe in the first 4 or 5 games. He's calmed down. He's confident. He's found his spot in the team, and now he's commanding it. And he has been magnificent, not just for Forest, but for England as well. I rarely get player names on my shirt. I almost never do it. It's not my bag, but also, just in the modern age, they never stick around, right? So I will be getting a Forest and or an England shirt with number 8 Anderson on the back at some point this year or this season. He's impressed me that much. And 8 is my number anyway. So I love the fact that he's 8 for Forest. But yeah, it has to be Anderson.
Might have to be the England shirt because I think he's going to be off at the end of the season.
Well,
as much as I hate to say it.
Yeah, maybe. But then I hope he gets the 8 shirt for England. Like if he's still 21, that's going to be gutting. But
yeah, I agree. I think for this World Cup, it'll be Jordan Henderson that wears it because he'll be going. But no, you can't argue with Anderson. I think he is so exciting to watch. I mentioned it on X and in our WhatsApp group that the other night when Wharton played, you could just see the difference between the two. Yeah. And I like winding the Crystal Palace fans up a lot, but I just thought the difference was so noticeable.
Yeah,
Wharton just wasn't looking for the ball as much as Anderson. They did so much more in 15 minutes when he came on. Okay, right. This question is one that I've been kind of like having some fun with. So I'll ask it. If Forest had to finish 17th, but won the Europa League, do you take that deal? So it's 17th in the Premier League and you win the Europa. You taking it?
Yeah, 100%. I don't see a downside to that.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, Forest gets to stay in the Premier League and we win silverware. And also reward those fans who travel to Europe as well, because it's a big investment in time and money. And as I said many times to Max, he's of a generation who just haven't had this experience before and they deserve it. So no, I take that deal all day long. I don't think that's going to be I don't think that's very likely because I think now, unfortunately, European adventure is going to be, sidebarred a little bit to ensure Premier League survival. But I think in the Dyche, he will ensure that. And I think we'll be in the Premier League again next year. But no, absolutely, Greg. Yeah, I'd take that deal.
Yeah, there's no downside. I mean, literally, there is no, especially when you qualify for the Champions League with it as well.
Right.
You just reset and you go again the following season in the Champions League. I think
Champions League. Oof.
I know. Well, I'm now glad that we didn't get Champions League, and I was also asking the question. Maybe we should have been in the conference after all, and maybe just kind of dipped our toe in the European waters a little bit. But yeah. Well, I do think we're going to see that rotation kicking in, but now we've kind of gone past the first couple of games or so. We've had that rocky road with the Postecoglou experiment. I think we're more settled. The one game under Dyche that I've been most annoyed about was the Sturm Graz game because we definitely did enough to win that game and we should have won it. And that's no reflection on Dyche because I've said on here that he coached the team enough to get the win. You can't compensate for a missed penalty. And Yates' header off the line. I'm feeling really hopeful about Utrecht and I'm feeling really hopeful about Malmo picking up maximum points. So fingers crossed we will be able to kind of fight both fronts a little bit better than we have so far this season. We're out of time.
Criticism Greg have of Dyche is he's got 2 world-class wingers on the bench that he just refuses to bring on, and you've got Stone and Wone there at your disposal. Why are they not getting minutes?
I know. I'm going to have a word. God, what players they're kind of my what sort of like 20s, 18, 19, 20, early 20s, those two in the Forest team. Great players. We got
Stone would have made it into my 11. I think he's probably the best out-and-out right winger that I've ever seen at Forest. But I had to find a spot for Francis, which is why he ended up there. But yeah, and I had to get Birtles in for the story in Collymore because he's undoubtedly the best 9 we've ever had, probably. But yeah, Steve Stone, fantastic player.
Fantastic. Okay, let's do this.
Name that grandmother.
We like to end on something a little bit wacky. Here it comes. I think you've seen it before. Mark Turner, Marmite, love it or hate it?
Big thumbs up.
How am I cooking your steak? How am I cooking your steak?
Medium well.
Medium well. Favorite cheese?
I'm going to cheat here. So I make a mean carbonara. And if you're doing it properly, you have to have Parmesan and Pecorino, both freshly grated. They are cheese cousins. I cannot separate them. So,
okay, we'll allow it. What's the best sandwich?
Well, ice cream is the only answer anyone should ever give, obviously.
Haven't got that one before. That's cool.
Yeah. I'm going to go with a Blatt. I love me a BLT, but it's elevated with some avocado. So, yeah.
Excellent.
Okay. Your favorite film?
If I was on a date, I'd tell the lass it was Breakfast at Tiffany's, which is a cracking film, by the way. Any of you
But you're not. You're on a podcast with two blokes.
I must say, any of you testosterone-filled fellas out there, connect with your female side and give Breakfast at Tiffany's a go. It's an absolute classic. But I'm going with Pulp Fiction. Absolutely.
Oh man,
banging.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And of course, because it's named after them, what are your grandmother's names?
Well, without bringing the tone of the podcast down as we bring it to a close here, I don't know my grandmother on my dad's side. My mum and my dad divorced when I was 1. I never got to meet those grandparents, sadly. But I was very, very close with my maternal grandparents. I mentioned my granddad already, going to Oxford United games with him. He was an absolute legend. But my grandmother was the epitome of love, man. Like, she never met a stranger. She was an amazing human being. So Mary Rose.
Oh man, that's cool.
Yeah, amazing, amazing woman. I'm still misses to this day.
Amazing. Well, as I always say, we salute grandparents wherever they may be. Thank you very much, Mark. We are out of time, unfortunately. It's been an absolute thrill to chat with you. We've seen you on the Garibaldi Red podcast, which, as you mentioned, seems like it's perhaps now going to finish. So we'll perhaps have to try and get you back on with us at some point down the line, if that's okay. And maybe we can review a match together at some point. So anything you'd like to close on before we let you go, Mark?
Well, firstly, you guys do a great job. I appreciate you having me on. Fantastic. And I also love your staying power. All the other podcasts are dying on the vine. So, guys, just stick it out. You're going to be the last man standing. I also want to give a quick shout out to Max Hayes as well, who brought me on to Garibaldi Red. Max is an absolute legend. And of course, now he's off having a legitimate career behind the mic, and more power to him. I'm so proud of him. I do also want to give a shout out as well to Holly Royal and the fine work that she and Ollie are doing over at the Forest Women's Fancast.
Yeah.
Folks should check it out. It's absolutely fantastic, not least of all because it shines a light on an important part of our community. Our Forest women's team are magnificent. They have been for many, many years now. When we were at Garibaldi Red, and even before that, like, we made a real effort to bring focus to that part of our club. So folks should check out Forest Women's Fancast for sure. I have nothing else to peddle other than I'm a podcast gun for hire. So if you guys need me, I'll be happy to come back on, and appreciate you having me on this time.
Amazing.
Love it.
Thank you very much, Mark. Richard?
No, I just appreciate it. Another great expat in the US who's just flying the flag, and we just really appreciate Mark, and he brings a good energy to the group, and always has really great things to say. Got a great sense of humor too. Some great, wonderful, sarcastic, and at the same time brilliantly witty statements within that group, and we just appreciate his advocacy, like he said, for the club, and you know, it's important. So appreciate you, man. You're a real representative of that. So thank you. Bless you.
Amazing. This is Talking Reds, and we've enjoyed having a chat with Mark Turner today on the One With. We'll be back again at some point with another similar episode, but all eyes are now focusing on Liverpool this Saturday. Can the Reds get back to winning ways against one of their arch enemies? Let's hope so. We'll see you soon.
Come join Greg and Richard right here on Talking Red.